President Trump has issued a $50 million bounty, the largest bounty ever, for the arrest or capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Guys, like, you could get that bounty right now. You could go down to Venezuela, find Nicolas Maduro, bring him back up here, and walk into a police station. You would get $50 million.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro.
This is in addition to Venezuelan airspace, quote, being closed by Trump, and essentially a Navy blockade around Venezuela involving 16 U.S. ships and 15,000 U.S. service members. Additionally, Trump has authorized the CIA to do lethal ground forces in Venezuela, really ratcheting up the pressure on Nicolas Maduro. I mean, think about it. If you were just hanging out with your friends and you had a $50 million bounty on your head, one of your friends is going to eventually turn you in. So, I mean, that's a real threat of Maduro, that someone in his government, or, you know, a general or a colonel or someone in his cabinet could legitimately turn him into the U.S. and get $50 million. I mean, $50 million isn't chump change, right? And of course, this is in addition to all of the boats that the U.S. has blown up, you know, allegedly drug trafficking boats. I mean, they seem like they've got like packages in the boats. They seem like maybe they're drug trafficking boats, but who knows? Maybe these are just guys out there on a fishing trip. Maybe they're just in speedboats going around the ocean. I mean, these are called extrajudiciary killings. That means there's no justice done. There's no due process. We're just out there blowing up boats like, we think you're guilty. Boom. This is the largest military escalation, military conflict in the Western Hemisphere since like Panama in 1989, or maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. This is a really big deal, and the U.S. and Trump says it's all about drug trafficking. It's because Nicolas Maduro is trafficking drugs and fentanyl into the United States. But a little bit of digging shows that 90% of the drugs that come into the U.S. actually come through Mexico, and only about 5 to 10% come through Venezuela. So if drugs aren't the real issue, and let's be honest, the U.S. doesn't really care about drug smuggling, okay? I mean, let's not forget in the 1980s how allegedly the CIA took the funds from the Iran-Contra affair, and they didn't just give it to the Contra rebels. They didn't just give that money to the Nicaraguan Contras. That's what most people think. That wasn't really the case. Really, the case was they allegedly bought cocaine from the Contra rebels, took that to America, taught people in inner cities how to cook that cocaine into crack, and then sell that crack to black communities. And then, you know, they had different punishments for rock cocaine over powder cocaine, so that people caught with rock cocaine did like 5 years minimum, you know, in federal penitentiaries. Unless, of course, you're Hunter Biden and there's evidence all over the internet of you using crack, and then your dad gives you a pardon. You know, if you're Hunter Biden, then you don't go to a mandatory minimum sentence, but anyone else does. You know, but I digress. My whole point there is that the U.S. and the government doesn't really care about drug trafficking. This is all just rhetoric. So then what's the real reason? Well, the real reason is that Nicolas Maduro and the guy before him, Hugo Chavez, nationalized all of Venezuela's oil fields. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than the Middle East. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves. And they kicked all the U.S. companies out. They kicked Exxon Mobile out. They kicked Chevron out. Okay? And it's all privately controlled by the Venezuelan government. And that pissed the U.S. off. That pissed the U.S. and the U.S. companies off that were making money down there and could be making more money. They got kicked out. We're talking billions of dollars that they're losing because the Venezuelan government kicked them out. And let's not forget, Trump has said in the past things like, we should have kept the oil from Iraq.
Well, we should have kept the oil when we got out. And you know, it's very interesting. Had we taken the oil, you wouldn't have ISIS, because they fuel themselves with the oil. That's where they got the money.
So you believe we can go in and take the oil?
We should have taken the oil.
Because we didn't. We just came in there, we overthrew the regime, and we left. We didn't essentially extract any benefit out of that invasion. Which, I mean, you know, objectively, what's the point of having an empire if you're not going to reap the benefits of that empire? What's the point of going in and knocking over a regime and spending, billions and billions of dollars doing that if you're not going to get anything back? I mean, at least the Romans, when they conquered different areas, they would get, spices and goods and gold from those areas. When the British would colonize an area, they would extract resources from it. We didn't get anything from it. The only thing we got from the Iraq War was debt, and a lot of it. Okay. And people talk about the national debt quite a bit. The national debt is at like $39 trillion. The US government makes $5 trillion a year. Okay. That's like if you make $60,000 a year and you owe $480,000 in debt. That's a similar thing there. But anyway, guys, for the second time, I digress. My only point here is every time you hear the U.S. talking about spreading democracy, about spreading freedom, about protecting the rights of the citizens of whatever country, that's not what it's about, okay? Terrible things happen all over the world that we don't care about. Terrible things happen in Africa. There's literally cannibals in Africa, in the Congo. Like, cannibalism is a big thing. Like, if you go out in the woods in the Congo, there's people that would capture you and tie you up and eat you.
If I grab you, I will eat you raw.
Okay, and we don't go invading the Congo. We don't go protecting those people's civil rights, although arguably that's like hell on earth over there. Okay, no. We focus on areas that have lots of resources, okay? And not even just for our own government, like, because we're a representative democracy and our politicians need money to get reelected, and they get that money through corporations, okay? A lot of the times it's the corporations like Exxon and Chevron getting kicked out of Venezuela that then pressure Trump to go to war or put pressure on Venezuela so they can get back in and make that money. It's all about capitalism and making capital, and capital is money. It's all about money. Okay, here is a quote from a guy named Smedley Butler. He wrote a book in 1933 called War is a Racket. 1933. This guy, by the way, could have been king of the U.S. He could have been a dictator. They wanted to make him a fascist dictator of the United States, people within the military. He refused, though. Here's the quote. I spent 33 years in active military service, and during that period, I spent most of my time as a high-class muscle man for big business, Wall Street, and the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. I helped make Mexico and especially Tampico safe for American oil interests. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Bank boys to collect revenues in. I helped in the raping of a dozen Central American republics for the benefit of Wall Street, just like Venezuela. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for the American sugar interests. I helped make Honduras right for the American fruit companies. In China, I helped see it that Standard Oil went on its way unmolested. Smedley D. Butler, War is a Racket, 1933. Now, if that was 1933, imagine what's going on today.